What's happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Fighting Words. Anthony Sanfilippo is here. I am Bob Wankel. Monday morning, Labor Day 2025. Phillies take 3 out of 4 against the Atlanta Braves. They are in first place this morning by 6 games, right, Anthony? 6 games? My math is correct.
6 games with 25 to play on Labor Day, Bob. It's not many teams have blown a lead that big in that short of time. So just pointing that out there. Just for those of you who like the percent chance or whatever that Bob, I'm sure, is going to give you off of Fangraphs or Baseball Reference or wherever the hell he's pulling it from, just know not many teams have blown a 6-game lead with 25 to play.
I thought last night that the Phillies were a lock, and I texted you that, and like, you know, I would usually say my bad. That's on me. It's my fault. But I tend to skew negative. Like, I think my thing is I say something negative about the team, and then they immediately do something positive. So I can't take responsibility for this. I really felt like, as I watched the Mets, the lifeless, pathetic New York Mets, lose 3 out of 4 to the Marlins yesterday, that it would have been perfect, like harmony within the universe of baseball for the Phillies to win last night and finish the week up 7 games, which is where they started prior to getting swept by the Mets. And I just thought they would come through. Jesus Luzardo came through. He was awesome. And that's probably the best thing we saw last night. There are some things here. And like, if you would have told me Thursday morning after that Mets series, Phillies take 3 out of 4 from the Braves, I sign up for that. And I do sign up for that. Positive weekend, I guess, in terms of the result. Where the hell is this offense, man? Like, seriously, where is this offense? You talk about Chris Sale and Waldrop. Like, okay, guess what? Guess what happens next month? You see good pitching. Come on.
Yeah. No, it's rough right now. Like, Trey Turner's doing his part. Kyle Schwarber's obviously doing his part as an MVP candidate. Bryce is mostly doing his part, although he does get into his little funks too. And then that's it, man. Like, beyond that, it's hit or miss and mostly miss.
Yeah,
like,
you're getting a little bit, you're getting a little bit out of Stott. He's had some situationally big hits. His numbers have been good since the break. But like, you go to Saturday night and it's a good win. They come back late and win the game, and that's awesome, right? Like they extra innings, walk off. There haven't been many of those this year. Their 2 through 7 hitters on Saturday night were 0 for 23.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Sale's a nice pitcher. He's coming off the IL. He's been out for months. Like, 0 for 23. And then last night, I mean, nothing. Marsh homers. Like, I actually, you know what I would say last night was? It was like, I called it October Nightmare Fuel, which should be the name of this podcast today. October Nightmare Fuel. Because this is the exact situation that keeps you up at night when you think about the Phillies in the playoffs. You get an awesome start. Your second best reliever, who's probably their 4th best reliever, is just cannot handle the moment, cannot grow up in important spots, kills you. Situationally, you have a chance with your 2 best guys going up against a kid who's very good, but they can't break the game open in Schwarber and Harper. Harper gets another opportunity late to give them an insurance run after the Schwarber triple. Can't do it. Missed opportunities. Bullpen lets you down. You lose. Like, that last night was the formula for how you eliminate the Phillies.
Yeah. I mean, last night was one of those. It's not just last night, Bob. I mean, your text that you sent me last night was so spot on. In the sense that you look back over the last 7 games and the Phillies had in last 6 games, whatever it was. In 6 games they had, I think, 9 runs or whatever it was, and then in one game they had 19, and it averages out to 5.
Yeah. Last 5 games, 6 runs over 4 games, 19-1, 5 runs per game. Good offense.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the sport and everything to an extent, but even go back to the Washington series, like it was not an electric offensive output at times against the Nationals. So
yeah, And what you're saying about October nightmare fuel, what it is like, look, these games are going to happen in October as well. Like, I mean, there's for every team, you're going to have games where the offense just doesn't hit, and it's a game, right? Obviously, each game is more paramount, but for the Phillies, you worry that it happens in the game that matters the most, right? Like you might lose a game in a series, or you could be up 2-1 in a series and have the game that they had last night, and maybe it doesn't hurt you as much. For the Phillies, you have a feeling it's going to happen in a game 6 or a game 7, right? And that's the fuel. That's the nightmare fuel right there. That's what you're thinking. And yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of issues in that lineup right now, just a lot of them. And look, it's on the players, man. Like, these guys are well paid, supposed to be good hitters. Like, freaking go out there and do your job. Like, that's what it comes down to. And they're not. They're just not doing it. And you're seeing frustration again. I'm not going to take any shots at Harrison Bader. He's been pretty good for them since they got him. But like, even he last night was slamming a bat on the ground, whatever. Again, I'm okay with that as long as it's not repetitive. It's not petulant, right? Like, those things I'm fine with. It's like when Alec Boehm does it, 18 times in 3 months, that you go, okay, now that's enough. Just get a hit. Stop acting like that, right? So I think that you're going to, those things are entirely on these players. They have to figure themselves out, and that's the problem.
So, look, again, good weekend. I mean, the positives here are Luzardo, I think, is starting to, in this moment, on September 1st, fast forward 1 month, I think that he is starting to cement himself, unless I'm misreading this, unless they really feel like they need more help from the left side out of the bullpen, I think he's starting to pitch himself into the starting rotation in a postseason series. He was awesome last night. He's been really good his last 6 or 7 times out now. Do you kind of think that what he is doing is cementing that spot, or do you think it's more like, well, you could see how they would want to use him later in games, especially if over the next month this bullpen looks a little light, which in the moment, in fairness, like, no Strahm last night, no Duran, like, they were short out of the bullpen last night. So it's hard for teams to generally navigate that. But I mean, Kerkering, we're at a point now. His last 7 games, he has a 9.64 ERA, 4 2/3, 6 hits, 5 earned, 5 walks, 4 strikeouts. So there's a lot going on here. His command has been terrible. When he's in the zone, he's getting hit. He's not striking anyone out. I mean, that's like the holy trinity of, like, I don't trust this guy. Don't go anywhere near him. Like, are we at a point where David Robertson is now kind of pitched himself past Kerkering as the primary go-to relief option from the right side?
Bob, you just asked me 16 questions. I got to figure out. I got to parse through this.
I mean, it's like, but that's where it's like at. I'm like, you know what the problem is with doing this show 2 times a week, when you're talking about the exact same baseball team every single week that does the same thing that it's done for 3 years. It's like, these are your talking points. Is the offense good enough? Does this bullpen suck? Or does it suck a ton? Or does it suck the most that any bullpen's ever sucked before that's won 95 games? Like,
yeah. Let's start with Luzardo. I'm going to go through this because
you can talk for the next 20 minutes. I'll be.
No, we're going to go. I'm going to
listen.
Okay, first time, long time, right? Now let me start with Luzardo, because like you said, is he solidifying? The guy's been really good. His last 5-6 starts now, and he's been really good. And I thought last night was maybe his best start of all of them. He had the 1 hit, 1 walk, and that was it. And they were both in the same inning, and he got out of it. And really should have been out of it before that if freaking Bryce Harper and Bryson Stott can learn how to run a pickle play. So yes, Luzardo has done really, really well, and the Phillies have to be really thrilled with this. Here's an interesting thing, and I'm going to throw in another name and another discussion point, another thing that we have to talk about today, because obviously the Phillies added a couple pieces yesterday. With Walker Buehler coming in to pitch, they signed Walker Buehler to a minor league deal, and Dombrowski told us that the plan for Buehler, weather permitting, is he's going to pitch a game on the 6th in AAA, and then he's going to come up and pitch on the 12th here against the Royals. And as they extend to a 6-man rotation during that stretch where they're playing 15 games in 15 days. So that's an interesting thing, because now what that does, Bob, is that assuming everything stays lined up as is, and you plug him in on the 12th, when you look at that Dodgers series that's coming up in the middle of the month, which is now become the most important series of the remainder of the season, right? Because you're battling for the bye. They've lined up all 3 lefties against the Dodgers. So does that tell you? Now, Dombrowski did say that they're going with their big 4 for the playoffs are those 3 lefties and Nola. So he basically said those 4 guys are going to start. I don't know in what order. I think the matchup will dictate a lot. How they pitch over the final month will dictate a lot. But I do think that Luzardo is in the mix now, and depending on the opponent, could well be the guy that they go to. They might go 3 lefties if it's the right opponent, and maybe the Dodgers are that opponent because of Freeman and Ohtani being at the top of that order. I think that that's a real possibility that's what you see if they play the Dodgers in the DS.
Okay, so that checks off the starting pitching box for now. Actually,
Kirkering.
If we move on, before we move forward, Ranger Suarez the other night just hit. When he gave up 10 hits in 5 innings. He was not very sharp. He got a couple double plays, navigated it. Do you look at that start and say credit to Ranger Suarez, shows his toughness and ability to work out of jams, or do you say, well, that was kind of not inspiring?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you can never kill a pitcher for only allowing 1 earned run in 5 innings. Like it's not the greatest start, but it's not the worst start, right? So you give him a lot of credit for grinding through it, for battling and all those good things. He did get help from an outfield assist from, great defensive right fielder Nick Castellanos. So that helped the cause.
I was really excited to talk about that again this morning. What does let's talk about Nick Castellanos and how his family feels about his usage. And
but the reality of it is that Ranger from time to time does give up contact. He does give up traffic, right? And not every game, but it does happen, right? There are things that take place there. I'm not concerned. Like, I look at it and go, if there's any pitcher on this staff who I feel good about getting out of a jam when there's traffic on base, it's Ranger Suarez. Right? Like, I mean, we've seen Luzardo struggle with it. We've seen Nola struggle with it. Sanchez doesn't usually have traffic, but the times that he does is when he gets himself in trouble. Like, so of the 4, who do I trust the most to get out of those jams? It's Suarez. So I'm not completely worried about.
No, and I mean, look, go back over his last few starts, he's been really good. So it's not like this is a trend where you say, all of a sudden, oh, look, he's doing this, and he looks like that guy that went through the 6-7 start stretch where the velocity was way down, he was ineffective. Like, I don't look at this weekend and start to worry about it. But everything is going to be hyper analyzed. There's a microscope on all of these guys. As you're trending towards the postseason, I mean, you have to get this right. The way that this offense just can totally go ice cold, especially, and I know it's true to a degree for all teams, but it just feels like that they've got to get starting pitching or they have no shot. And it's crazy to say that about a team that's in the top third of runs scored per game, and obviously has some names and all of that. But I think it's the most important thing. I mean, I think you have to put the 3 guys out there at the start of every series that give you the best chance to win. And it's just, you don't know who exactly that is in this moment.
Yeah. And so this kind of brings it to I got to pop up a comment from, otherwise he'll complain that we don't put up his comments. But just from our boy Ford, do either of you guys really think they can win the World Series? To me, you need a lot of unexpected things to occur for that to happen. Too many. And I say here, Ford, here's my answer to that question, and I'll let Bob answer it as well. Can they win the World Series? Yes. Do I think they will? No. So there's the basic answer. And the reason I say they can is, you're sitting here watching the Phillies every night. Watch every other team every night that they're going to have to play. You're going to find these teams are going through the same thing the Phillies are. It's a very mediocre league right now.
I'll flip that around.
That's why they can.
That kind of speaks to that. You're the Dodgers. You just sweep the Reds. You gain some ground on the Phillies. You feel like, okay, we're finally gaining our traction now. Like, here we go. We're gaining our footing. And then you have the Diamondbacks who are out of it. And they're struggling with the Diamondbacks. Lose a couple games this weekend, 5-4 walk-off yesterday. Like, they struggled against an Arizona team that has 0 to play for. And you're probably, as a Dodgers fan, going, I trust these guys to an extent. They won it last year. We've kind of been down this road before, but come on, guys. Like, why can't we get 20 games over 500 and stay there and get to 25, get to 30? We were supposed to, coming into the season, be one of the greatest teams of all time. And they're sitting a game behind the Phillies right now. So the standings, it's easy to say, look at the standings and the Phillies are in really good shape. Look at the rest of the league. That kind of tells you that everybody's flawed. But think about what that thought process had to be like for teams for the Dodgers this week. How about being the Mets, who are going to make the playoffs? And you say, we took it to the Phillies again. We did it again. We're the Mets. Here we come. We finally have turned the corner. We've been terrible for 2 months, but this series has definitely been the jolt that we needed. Now we get the Marlins at home, who had been hot for a little bit, but the last few weeks have kind of looked more like the Marlins. We're going to kick their ass. And what do you do against them this weekend at home?
32 runs the Marlins scored in 4 games. Phillies scored 8 in 3 in Citi Field.
And I don't know if that's remember what I said on Friday? It was a Captain Obvious comment. I don't think either of these teams are very good. And it just kind of plays out that way. Like, the Mets stink. Yeah. I watched the Phillies go up there and flail around for 3 days. And I'm like, well, the Phillies aren't that good. So to Ford's question, do I think the Phillies can win the World Series? I guess define can. Like, is it possible? Sure. All you have to do is listen to me on this show the last couple of weeks. I don't think this team's going to win the World Series.
Right. I don't either.
It feels like to me, and I don't remember, I was in high school, when the Eagles did the lose in the NFC Championship game every year, and then they go out and get T.O. I don't remember if a high caliber TO guy was on the market in like 02 and 03 when they didn't add and those receivers were getting bullied around. I don't remember if there was some big name that they missed out on and we're like, why didn't they go get him? But that's kind of how I feel about this Phillies team. It has that same like knock on the door. Nope. Knock on the door. Nope. They clearly need another bat and they don't go out and get it. Now, I don't think T.O. presented himself this year for the Phillies or last season necessarily at the deadline, but there's a need. They didn't get it, and I think it's going to end in failure, and we're all going to sit here this winter and say, damn, if they had another bat, it might have been different. That's what I think is going to happen. But at the same time, I don't know who the Phillies were supposed to get at the deadline.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think that, that if in fact they do lose and that's the postmortem, that's when we're writing the obituary. That's what it is. I almost think, Bob, that it's going to get buried because I think that that's ultimately the biggest miss right now for the Phillies is that they are missing that other bat in the lineup. And maybe they thought guys that they had here were going to at least have better seasons than they're having, and they're not. But I'll tell you that everybody's going to blame not having Zach Wheeler, not having Jose Alvarado as 1 and 2 for the season. I'm just telling you that's going to be the narrative.
Like the other, like Zach Wheeler, sure. Jose Alvarado, I mean.
Well, no, but it changes the bullpen, right? Like you're now going to go out and get a Tim Meza on August the 31st to pitch in the playoffs, and this guy's going to pitch for the Phillies as a left-handed reliever in the postseason. And you have to do that to replace Jose Alvarado. I mean, like that's going to be a talking point. It absolutely.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, the Phillies had 2 months to adequately replace Jose Alvarado if they felt they needed to, and they didn't. Like, I mean, they went out and.
Well, but the reason that they didn't, think about this. The reason they didn't was because all along one of these lefty starters was going to move into the bullpen in October. Then you lose Wheeler. And that changes the calculus. And so now you're stuck with adding a guy at the waiver deadline to be the third lefty in the bullpen. That's what happened. So if you want to go a deeper criticism, the deeper criticism that maybe won't get discussed is they left their depth thin at the position. They didn't have another lefty guy down in the minors ready to come up and ready to go. Whatever. They didn't have that depth left.
It also doesn't help that 2 months ago we're talking about, hey, can Mick Abel pitch out of the bullpen in the playoffs? And you go out and make a trade, which I'm totally on board with. As far as him not being an option here any longer. But then, hey, how does Andrew Painter fit into this? Is he a starter in the playoffs? Is he a high leverage righty that can come in and blow guys away like David Price did for the Rays in 2008 and Wainwright did for the Cardinals? I mean, this guy can't get through 5 innings without giving out 6 earned runs right now in AAA. I mean, some of the things that you're relying on as you set this up have just not worked out. And I can't kill them for that or not planning for that, but it does leave them a little light. I mean, you look at Jose Alvarado last night, and it was a weird appearance because he made some pretty good pitches and he was more in the zone. Like he actually had okay command for the most part, but he can't bend over to field a ground ball. And then
probably should have just let it go.
And then, as you noted to me, he was really in the game to get Baldwin out and didn't, and then everything else looked really good.
So I want to get back to one of the other things that you brought up in that when you were all over the place with those 16 questions is Ryan Kerkering. And I actually wrote about him this morning. Kerkering,
he's super talented, Anthony. He stinks right now.
Yeah, it's interesting with him because if you look at his track record, and it's not a long one, it's not a long track record. It's 2 seasons and just a handful of appearances in 23. But in his track record, he goes through these stretches where he's awful. He goes through 5, 6, 7 game stretches where he's not good, and then he figures it out again. And Rob was suggesting last night that he didn't use the word confidence, but he said that he really needs to trust his stuff. So that's the managerial way of saying he's lacking confidence in his stuff right now. Yeah. Like he's not in the zone. He's not throwing his pitches for strikes. He doesn't trust that his fastball isn't going to be hit or that his slider is going to be a swing and miss pitch. And when he gets into those modes, and he's done it in the postseason too, maybe not as bad as he has been the last 6 games. It's not great. And so now you got to sit there and ask yourself, all right, he's got a month, and look, a month is plenty of time to get right. Plenty of time to get right for Ryan Kerkering. But you do have to start asking yourself, if he doesn't get right, if this continues, do you flip him and David Robertson in the bullpen as far as responsibilities?
I think that there's today, not yet. I'm right there. I mean, Robertson comes in last night and didn't really have it the first, we don't want to talk about, didn't have it like the first 6 pitches.
Yeah.
He got these Phillies fans out there booing the shit out of him. He's been like awesome since he's been here. And they're booing him after he gives up a base runner and falls behind 3-0. And then 30 seconds later, they're giving him a standing O, trying to get him out of the inning. I love it. Yeah, I mean, like at least the guy has experience, and at least, and I know he's had some hiccups with the Phillies, David Robertson, but like I think I didn't do the like high leverage baseball reference breakdown of Ryan Kerkering this morning, like in prep for the show. But I know there's a criticism out there, and I have to at least say that I understand it. That like it feels like in big moments he wilts. And I know that goes back to 23 when he was a kid. I mean, like green. And I understand that it's a hard spot for him to be in, coming up and pitching for basically 10 days. And then all of a sudden you're a big part of the postseason mix. But it feels to me like that he does struggle in big moments and has quite a bit. I don't know if the numbers bear that out. Maybe his numbers in high leverage situations are pretty good, and that's unfair. I don't know. So I'm admitting that.
Well, I got it for you, Bob. Since you asked, his career. This is career splits in high leverage. 236 batting average against, 675 OPS against.
Not terrible.
They are his worst numbers though.
Yeah.
OPS wise. So medium leverage, his OPS is against is 663. Low leverage, his OPS against is 576.
And if I were to talk for 10 seconds and let you click over specifically to 2025, would you be able to pull that up?
This year, you want to just know this year alone?
Worse this year if I
talk for 10 seconds and I'll come up with it.
Yeah, I mean, just go back to your point about Robertson though. I mean, look, he's certainly a veteran guy. And I think that he's been, for the most part, pretty sharp. And, some of the velocity stuff doesn't knock your socks off or anything like that. But I think you might be getting to a point where there's just a certain level of trust that he's going to be able to navigate the moment. And the problem with Kerkering is twofold. Number one, in general, he's a mess right now. And then even if he straightens it out, do you trust that in the 8th inning, in a key spot, that he's going to be able to hold it down? Because he has shown you a few times here recently that whether this is narrative driven or not, it feels as if the moment is too big for him. How did I do? Did I give you enough time?
You did good. You did good. So again, the difference between high leverage and medium leverage is not statistically significant, but there is a difference between that and low leverage. So high leverage is his worst OPS this year, 709. Medium leverage is 689. So like I said, it's not that big of a difference.
Well, see, that's not dreadful, because you say, well, if someone has a 689 OPS, they're Nick Castellanos, right?
Right.
And you go, well, that's not so bad. But the problem is that when you're talking about being a setup guy, like you need essentially to be 1B to 1A, lights out. And like 689 is not lights out. Like you're basically
that's medium. That's his medium leverage. High leverage is 709.
Yeah. I mean, that's not good enough for a guy that's going to pitch as your primary option before Duran in the 8th or 7th inning, depending on the pocket of the opposing lineup.
Give me off the top of your head another setup guy in baseball that's really good, and I'll do a comparison.
I mean, I actually don't know in this moment, who I'd say, like, go look at him. That's elite. That's the guy that you would want.
How about Morahone in San Diego?
Okay.
Does that you
sure.
think that's fair? I mean, he's not their closer. Usually pitches. I mean, he's left-handed, but that's a little bit different. But he usually pitches in those high leverage spots for the Padres, right? So this year, as I scroll down to it, in high leverage situations, his OPS against is 346.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're expecting from elite level, high leverage, late game guys, like to be wipeout. And Ryan Kerkering's not wipeout. Doesn't mean he stinks, but he's just not a guy that you put in the game and say, good night. That's not what he is. You don't know what you're going to get. I mean, we've talked a lot about Matt Strahm this season and kind of like, hey, it doesn't look quite like last year. The numbers are pretty good. I mean, I trust Matt Strahm infinitely more right now in this moment than I do against or as opposed to a Ryan Kerkering. And that's independent of who he's facing left, right. I'd rather just see Strahm out there, because at least with Strahm, like, yes, he makes mistakes, and yes, the stuff's a little less than it was a year ago, but like, I know Strahm's out there competing his ass off. Like he has that mentality. Like, he has the correct mentality. And I don't know. And I feel like it's a cheap shot. Like, I'm not saying that this guy's soft. I'm not saying that he's mentally weak, but like, the results are the results. And like right now, he just isn't, whether or not he's weak or not mentally, or doesn't have it in those situations. We'll see. Time will tell. He's 24 years old, but like at some point you just got to produce in the moment. He just isn't.
On the other side, how much do you trust Tanner Banks right now?
I mean, he's been unbelievable. You go back to the Nationals game last Sunday, he cleans up Alvarado's mess and gets them through that and helps them win that game. And last night, he's coming in, taking down Acuna, in a must-have spot. It's gone from like, this is fun to like, now you're not even going lefty-lefty. Like, you're going in. I mean, I know he's in the game to get Olsen first, but like, you bring him in knowing that even if you get Olsen, like, you've got to deal with Acuna from the right side. He strikes him out.
Yeah. Yeah. Now he's been a revelation this year. And it might be
bullpen be without that. I mean,
It might be a 1-year wonder for all we know. It might be a 1-year thing for all we know, Bob, right? But it couldn't happen. When I talk about, the good guys in the clubhouse, Tanner Banks is one of the all-timers. Like, just really, really easy going.
Yeah.
Yesterday, when we go into the clubhouse, we're sitting there, and just in case people don't think that these guys are paying attention to what's going on around the league, the Phillies are the Sunday night game. The 3 games that they have on when we arrived yesterday in the clubhouse are the Brewers, the Mets, and the Padres. So, like, obviously, they're the 3 games on the TVs. And I am standing there. It was me and Matt DeGeorge from Delco Times with Tanner Banks. And we're watching these other games and just talking through the games where, Alcantara hits Vientos, and we're talking about beating guys. And Banks talks about, he says, I've never had he's like, I've hit guys, but I've never had a situation where somebody got so mad that they wanted to come to rush the mound. And we're having these great conversations, like just one of the salt of the earth humans. It's like you root for guys to do well, and those that are like that are just good dudes. And I don't know, last year Tanner Banks was just a guy. This year he is one of their most reliable relievers. And you're right. Where would this bullpen be without Tanner Banks? And someone asked me a question yesterday, and I said, yeah, like just in right off the top of my head. And I still think I have to think about it a little bit. But the question was, do you think Tanner Banks starts to get higher leverage spots later in this season and in the postseason? And I said yes off the top of my head. I have to think about it, but maybe so. Maybe really he will.
Well, you look at last night, and going to Kerkering in the 8th inning, given who was down, it made sense. Like, well, this is the guy. This is our best option in this 8th inning here. But I guess my question to you is, or was it the 7th? Whenever he came in, it was the 8th, I believe. The 7th? Okay.
I think it was the 7th, right?
I guess my thing is, like, do you get to a point where you say, like, Banks is going to get this inning? Like, we're going to go Banks over Kerkering in a spot where we're holding a 1-run lead. We're holding, it's a tie game before Duran. Like, are the results? I mean, the results are the results. The numbers are the numbers. He's been doing this all season.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that makes me give pause to my original answer of yes is when you find that he is really good at coming in and cleaning up messes, like he's done in the last couple of outings, right? The Alvarado one, and then last night against Kerkering. It makes me think of the way they used to use Matt Strahm last year. Right. So Strahm would be the guy that they turn to when there's traffic on the bases and the guy that's pitching in front of him doesn't look like he's in a good spot. I think that Tanner Banks might be just that guy. So
he's certainly proven that he can do that, and Kerkering has struggled with inherited runners. And so you want to optimize those strengths. At the same time, there is an argument to be made for maybe you don't get yourself into that situation if you just put the better, more efficient, effective pitcher in the game to begin with. Okay. Let me ask you something here. The Phillies happen to be playing a game this afternoon against a team that since the beginning of June is 54-25, 29 games over 500. They're the best team in baseball. They, by a mile, almost 30 runs in terms of run differential, plus 163 the Brewers are. The next best is the Yankees at 134, the Phillies 99. So the Brewers are 64 runs ahead of the Phillies in terms of run differential. The Brewers are 3rd in baseball in runs per game, and they are 4th in run prevention, runs allowed per game. This team's awesome. And by the way, they came to Philadelphia back in late May, I believe it was, and beat the brakes off the Phillies in a 3-game sweep, outscoring them 28-11. And that was the first game where Jesus Luzardo, the Jesus Luzardo early season Cy Young campaign sort of blew up, as I'm sure a lot of people recall. This is a team that is going to be a factor in the postseason. We've spent a lot of time on this show talking about the Mets. We've been talking about the Dodgers. We've been talking about the Padres because of what they've done at the trade deadline. But all along, the best team here has been the Brewers. We talked a week ago about what does this series show you in terms of the Mets, and does it reveal anything about the Phillies and their ability to compete next month? Let me ask you the same question about a team that we probably truly deserves to have the question asked of them?
So I look at the Brewers and I see a team. I think they're a great story. I love the way that they're coached, they're managed. They have a solid pitching staff all the way through. I look at their offense, and it's been a couple guys have been really good for a while now, but I still think that there's an offense that's going to not be as good come October. And regardless of how this series plays out, and I don't think the Phillies are going to do well in this series. I think the Brewers are going to win 2 out of 3. If I had to pick the series, I'm going to pick the Brewers to win 2 out of 3. But I do think that regardless of this outcome, I think that there's just something about the Brewers that I look at that team and say, this is not the right formula for October success. That's just how I look at it. It's not a knock on them.
I have a hard time poking a hole in this team. The starting rotation's been good. Peralta's been out of his mind good. Yeah, I don't know if you guys, you were obviously there in person last night, but during the game, ESPN had flashed a, August ERA thing, in reference to Waldrop, and, Peralta, I think, was 0.32 in the month of August. The only hole I can really poke in them in terms of trying to knock them down a little bit in their stature, if they're third in runs per game in baseball, you'd expect a little bit more team-wide productivity in terms of like OPS, right? And they're 10th in OPS. They have a 741 OPS, which is behind the Phillies. So have we just seen a team that has had an amazing ability for a very extended period of time, a 3-month stretch, where they are simply getting more, they're getting a better result than what they're actually producing. And that's the only thing I can say about them. And to even contradict that or go against that in the moment, is there a skill in that? Does that say something about I'll use the word that I used last week talking about the moxie. Does it just show that they're able to almost always bear down in key spots? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they get enough credit. I think around the league, baseball has kind of rolls its eyes at the Brewers a little bit because I think that baseball people think the same way I think on that team. But I think they're a fun watch. I think that they do little things very well. That's the most important thing, right? Like they do the little things really well. They are a good defensive team. They run the bases well. They move runners well. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, small ball, because it's not just small ball. They have a good approach at the plate. Like there are things to really like about the Brewers. In today's game, though, there's just something about a team that doesn't have the pop. And you're Mr. OPS, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they are also. I'll take it a step further. I mean, they are 19th in home runs per game.
Yeah.
So, and we feel like that the Phillies have kind of been in the midst of a season-long power outage, Kyle Schwarber aside, and they're 124 per game. That's 10th. So,
yeah. So that's I mean, really, that's what it comes down to, and that's why I think ultimately, are they a tough out? 100%, they're a tough out. But I don't necessarily buy the Brewers. I'm not buying it, right?
You think that's one where the longer the series, the more likely that is to get exposed? Like, yes. I would not be enthusiastic about playing the Brewers in a 3-game series.
3 or a 5. Even a 5 could be tough.
Get that to 7, and maybe it's a little bit of a different
it's a different thing in a 7-game series. Yeah. Yeah. And here's the other thing to credit the Brewers. I mean, like right now, just like, you look at their record. They have a 5.5-game lead on the Phillies. The Phillies have the 3rd best record in baseball.
Yeah.
And that's only by a half game behind the Tigers. I mean, they have the 2nd best record in the National League, 3rd best record in baseball, and the Brewers are 5.5 games better. Yeah. So it just goes to show what the Brewers have been doing. It's been an impressive summer for Milwaukee.
I don't have a ton more that I feel compelled to get to today.
The one other thing we should mention is the additions yesterday. Walker Buehler, and Tim Meza. I know we briefly mentioned it earlier. Just wanted to kind of get your take on it. Obviously Meza's the addition because they're losing Alvarado, and now the lefties are going to probably have to start in the postseason. He's got some postseason experience, pitched actually for the Yankees in the World Series last year. Last year was his worst year of the last 4. Wasn't a great year. Wasn't terrible, but it wasn't a great year. But 3 years before that, he was really good for Toronto. I think that could be the more useful piece. But I did want to get your thoughts on the addition of Walker Buehler as well.
I mean, you talked about it earlier about him coming up and he's going to start a game and it helps maybe lengthen these guys out a lot. They're a little bit. They're playing a ton of baseball. There are not many days off. It's a grueling stretch. I also think it's an indictment, a further indictment of Andrew Painter, if you want me to be a little sensationalist about it.
Well, I asked this question to directly to Dombrowski. Yes,
I don't know how you could spin it any other way. I mean, they are telling you that we at the beginning of the season pegged our prize pitching prospect to come up sometime around July. He has not experienced further injury. He is not being called up. And we just signed a guy who got pummeled in Boston this season because we don't think that guy can help us this season as much as the guy in Boston can. Like, there's no other way to look at it. So especially if a Walker, if any of these guys go down, like you need more depth, and you're thinking to yourself, like, this guy that we were pegging to do it isn't ready to do it for us. Doesn't mean he stinks. Doesn't mean that he's not going to be what everyone hoped he'd be. But right now on September 1st in 2025, as you're trying to win a World Series, like, he's not going to be the guy to help you. And it's pretty damning, at least in the immediate.
Yeah, and I guess like the Phillies, one of the things that Dombrowski said yesterday, he's like, there's a connection there with Caleb. They both went to Vanderbilt. They're both driveline guys, right? Like they've already been talking, and Cotham believes that there's something to just looking at video that they feel like that there's something that they could fix with Walker Buehler to kind of get him back to what he was before. And the fact that he's a guy with a lot of postseason experience with the Dodgers. Last year, pitched a great game against the Mets in the NLCS, pitched a great game against the Yankees in the World Series, and closed out the World Series as well.
Well, so then let's go beyond just a depth signing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, is there a world where they say, you know what, you're our other guy from the right side late in games because you have done it and you've shown in October that you have stones to do it, and we could maybe really maximize what you have left in the tank by using you this way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. I think it's a matter of they got to see how it is. Right, he's going to go. So the plan is he's reporting today to AAA, and they're going to start working with him this week. Give him a week, kind of with their guys. Then he's going to pitch on the 6th, so Saturday for AAA. He's going to make a start down there, and then he's going to come up on the 12th. So like they're going to really basically have him, under the hood for 11 days before he debuts at the major league level again. And then you see what you got. And they're kind of taking it from there. So they're taking a flyer. They think they can fix it. I would say, Bob, if he can prove to be useful, that I think that he's a guy that you use in some capacity in October.
Okay. I could see that. Now we've checked that box, the transaction box. I have 1.5 more things because the half ties into the other part of it. John Kincaid of 97.5 The Fanatic this morning, and I know that you've been on his show with Andrew Salchunas a couple times this summer.
Yeah, he
tweets because this ties into sort of what we're just talking about, these additions and then the call-ups and such. Thankfully, though, the Phillies will be adding a third catcher to the roster for the stretch run, which is obviously filling a critical need, while other organizations bring up young pitchers. There was a response to this tweet that said, agreed, super weird to bring up Stubbs and not Kemp or, dare I say, Crawford. To which John replied, not for this group. Let's instead juggle mediocre outfielders and refuse to give one of the best young players in baseball a sniff. So I think John's critical of the Phillies in two different ways here. You're bringing up the vibesman for this September stretch, and you do not have an interesting arm from within to bring up, which is part of the reason you're bringing in Walker Buehler. And on top of it, there are outfield deficiencies, and you're not able to bring anybody up that's going to help that situation. Much like Dave Dombrowski basically tells you that Andrew Painter's not ready, he's also kind of telling you that Crawford's not good enough in this moment to help the team. Oh,
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I know everybody wants Crawford to come up because they're just looking at the stat line, right? And the stat line's been very good. There's no doubt about it. He's been really good at AAA stats-wise. But the one thing I will give the Phillies credit for here, because I think teams call up their young players sometimes maybe too early. Not saying that, what's going on around the sport when you see the Mets calling up both McClain and Tong and, like things like that. Like those guys are obviously, at least McClain for sure. Tong we'll see. McClain's obviously ready for the show. I think the Phillies are smart about self-assessment, and maybe they hadn't been in the past. I don't think that they've been a team, an organization that's been really good at this in the past. But I think that they've been good. They've been good at it since Preston Mattingly was brought in originally to kind of oversee minor league operations, and now he's the general manager. And I think that they've got a nice system in place. And they look at something and they see Crawford and they say, not yet. And for whatever reason, and they're not saying what it is publicly, they're not telling us why. They are, despite the public pressure otherwise, they are staying the course and they're being adamant about it. Not yet. So there has to be something there. And I'm more inclined to trust the Phillies when they're doing that self-assessment, that they're not overreacting to the fact that their outfield isn't good enough and just trying to thrust a kid that they think is a long-term answer here into a spot that maybe isn't the right one for him.
Right. Well, it is unfortunate because they could obviously use a little bit of extra juice in that outfield. It has been a little bit better. You've gotten some contributions from some of these players that were scuffling previously, but we spent a lot of time on it last week. I don't want to keep spending a ton of time on it, but there was a Nick Castellanos thing again this weekend, sort of involving you, but not really. I guess, do you want to just briefly kind of touch on what happened? And I want to just point out before you do that he's in 7 games. He's 2 for 21 with no extra base hits, 0.95, a 296 on base percentage, an 0.95 slug, a 392 OPS.
He's been terrible.
He's been terrible. The month of August, just let me cook here for a second. He hit 180 in August. He had 16 hits and 89 at bats, 2 home runs, 2 doubles. 509 OPS. And if you go back to the All-Star break, just give me 1 second here, which was the first game back was July 18th. He's hitting 189 with a 246 on base percentage and a 550 OPS, 7 extra base hits and 132 at bats. Nick Castellanos has been horrible.
No, he has. And he wasn't even supposed to be in the lineup yesterday. Rob wouldn't say that officially, but Max Kepler.
We have walked 6 times in the last 4 games.
Yeah, that was my tweet that I put out yesterday, right? Kepler was probably supposed to start, but Kepler has been dealing with like a little bit of a sore shoulder. So they just want to give Kepler a day off. And then somebody asked Rob, was Max supposed to be in the lineup today? And he says, I'm not going to comment on that. So if Rob's saying I'm not going to comment, it means yes, Max Kepler was supposed to be in and Nick Castellanos was supposed to be out.
So it would be cool if Rob just told the truth.
Yeah, so that's my big point with this whole thing, right? Like, it's painfully obvious to all of us that the Phillies no longer trust Nick Castellanos in the lineup, and rightfully so.
Yeah, very fair.
Rightfully so, right? He's not had a good year. He's been terrible, like you said, for a long time now. And last year when he went through it, he was able to figure it out, got consistent, was at least decent the rest of the year. This is different. This time it's the other way around. He started off okay, and then he's completely fallen off and not been able to correct it. And it's been more than a month, right? So that's the problem. And so they but rather than just come out and say that, they're making excuse after excuse after excuse as for why he's not in the lineup.
Yeah.
Whether it's, oh, the knee is sore. Oh, the turf in Globe Life Park is not the greatest. Oh, this guy, he just could use a day. He's always better after he gets a day off. Oh, it's a rotation and it's his turn or whatever. And then he gets pulled from the game in the 9th inning the other night. And, Rob's asked about it and he's like, oh, well, the situation called for it. He made the second to last out. Bader's our best defensive outfielder. So it just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why haven't you done this since, June 16th when the big blow up happened? Well, it hasn't really come up, Rob says. And that's BS, man, because it happened twice in the past week. It happened against Washington and it happened against Seattle. Okay, it wasn't a 1-run game. It was a 2-run game, but it's still close enough that, a runner gets on base and then all of a sudden you're one hit away from tying it up. It's the same thing. And he was not pulling him. And Castellanos made the next to last out in the 8th inning in both of those games. So why didn't it happen? I just wish that they were more consistent with the message, and they're not. And I think that that's what's pissing off Castellanos more than anything else. I think he wants to play. He's a team guy and whatever. But he probably wouldn't be happy about being a reserve. But I think that he would appreciate it more if they weren't gaslighting everybody as to what's going on. And so when Castellanos gets asked about it after the game, rather than say anything derogatory, he was giving one-word answers. But it was apparent he was frustrated and not happy. So when that happened and I was writing the story about it, I felt that it was important because what always happens is we put little clips of the availability out on social media. Everybody wants to watch the video. Those videos are far more attractive than anything that I write, right, for in today's world. But I felt that it was important that we put the entire transcript out and that we put what Rob said out and we qualify and say, listen, this is not true. What Rob is saying. I feel like that kind of whole context will at least allow the reader, maybe they're not consuming it as much as they are the video, but at least those who read it have an opportunity to look at it and say, okay, now we understand why Castellanos is frustrated. Yeah, he's not playing bad. I mean, yes, he is playing bad, but at the same time, the Phillies are not handling this well.
Yeah, and I guess I just wonder when you get to next month, are they going to say you are the guy that is the veteran? The team was horrible last year against the Mets in the playoffs. You were one of maybe 2 guys that actually showed up. We've seen you perform in the postseason before. We're going to just give you the opportunity blindly to do this, even if it doesn't get any better in September. Is it about putting the best lineup on the field tonight? Is it about trying to get him going in more favorable situations and then building off of that? Or is this a signal that this is how they're going to go into the playoffs next month? And I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, or what I'm trying to say is, I don't know what they're doing with him. I don't know what the end game is with Nick Castellanos in 2025. I'll tell you more than ever, I don't think he'll be here next year. If they have to swallow $13 million, I don't think he's going to be here next year. He doesn't fit. I don't think that they think he fits. I think they're treating him like he doesn't fit. I'd be surprised if he's back. I really would. But in this season, are they looking at this and saying that this guy has the pedigree and he has the more upside of all these other hitters, and so we just got to try to get him right? Which, if that's the case, I don't think they're doing a very good job of it, because I think mentally I won't say he's checked out, but I think he's very apparently frustrated. So what are they trying to accomplish with him right now?
That's a great question, Bob. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish, because right now you look at the outfield and, I'd say Bader probably deserves to be in there almost every game. He's your best defensive outfielder. He's your most productive offensive outfielder. Probably should play 90% of the time. The other 2 spots are whatever. It's a matter of trying to get some of them going in time for October. And I tried to ask this question, and Rob
is it an oversimplification to say that against a right-handed pitcher in a playoff game that you absolutely are going to see Brandon Marsh? There's a fairly good likelihood that you will see Bader in center because defense will be a consideration. And as you noted, he is one of their more consistent outfield options offensively. And really this comes down to, do we want to play matchup with Max Kepler, or do we want Nick Castellanos to just go out and see what that looks like? Are they really deciding it's Castellanos or Kepler against a righty in the playoffs? Is it that what this comes down to?
Yeah, although I do think there's a little bit of Marsh mixed in there. I think you're right that Marsh is ahead of them right now.
Well, Marsh, I think, is like a lock. Like, we're facing a righty. Marsh is in the game somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, Marsh starts in a playoff game against a right-handed pitcher, slam dunk right now.
Right now, yes. Yes. But I do think that he's kind of in that kind of rotation, though, as well. Because he did sit the other day, right? Against a righty. He sat against a righty the other day. So he's still in that rotation, but I think he's ahead of those two. And then it really comes down to who's the better option in a certain matchup against a right-handed pitcher. Is it Max Kepler or is it Nick Castellanos? Neither of which are great choices. Kepler's just the better defensive player. So maybe Kepler gets the nod because of that. Or you look at it and say, Nick has a better chance of giving us what we need offensively in this particular game. And if we get ahead, then we'll throw Kepler in there for defense.
I think it's a tough question to answer because I watch Nick Castellanos. I've been watching this now for a month and a half. Even when he was better at the beginning of the season, like I wasn't blown away by it, quite honestly. But now we're at a point where I just say, like, I don't know if you can keep doing this. But I do acknowledge that there is a certain pedigree with the player and that he has had some big hits for this team in October before. And he was, as I said, one of the guys that kind of locked in during a series where many guys weren't locked in. And so do you just give him the nod over that, over the other option, especially because the other option is Max Kepler?
Yeah.
And if that's what you're ultimately going to land on, then I think you better start getting to work on making sure that Nick Castellanos is in a better headspace this month. Because right now, playoff started today, I don't think he's in a good headspace.
I agree with you 100%, Bob. I really do. I really do.
All right, that's all I got. I got to go to work. Get me out of here. Labor
So
Day, we're not off.
Yeah, I know. So you don't want to do a one last thing here?
I do.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, that's good. And I'm trying to pull up what I need to pull up, and my phone is being wonky on me here. So just give me 1 second. All right. So you said earlier in the show that the Mets are going to make the playoffs, and I agree with you. I agree that they are still going to get in. But have you been paying attention to the San Francisco Giants?
No.
Okay. And I get it.
Flatly,
right?
no.
All right. So the San Francisco
Game
Giants,
under.
right?
Yeah.
Last weekend took 2 of 3 from Milwaukee, and then swept the Cubs. And then this past weekend, took 2 of 3 from Baltimore. Okay? So they're playing really good baseball right now. They have 3 games this week, starting today, with the Colorado Rockies. The Mets go to Detroit to play the Tigers. The Giants are 5 games behind the Mets.
Yes, they are.
If they pick up a couple of games, right? Let's say they pick up a couple games this week, not just the next 3 days, but this week. Let's say they pick up a couple of games and get within 3. The Giants all of a sudden become the Phillies' best friend. They have 7 games left with the Los Angeles Dodgers. 3 in San Francisco, 4 in LA. Can the Giants be a team that helps the Phillies get the bye? And should we be paying attention to every Giants game now? Because if they get back, again, and I say get back within 3 by the end of the week, that puts them firmly in this race. You're 5, 6 games
I would have thought to talk about this. We'll start here. They currently, because I know you love Fangraphs playoff odds, they have a 2.2% chance to make the playoffs, according to Fangraphs.
Yeah.
The Mets, 92.9% in this moment. As you noted, it is a 5-game separation between the two. They probably have to make the move right now, starting with Colorado. And if they can do that, it does get interesting. And one of the other things about this is you talk about the Mets and having I'm sorry, you said the Mets have who this week?
They're in Detroit.
In Detroit.
Yeah.
From there, they then play the Reds in Cincinnati for 3 games this weekend. So the Reds are the other factor in this. And it kind of feels like they missed their shot because they fell apart against the Dodgers. They lost 2 out of 3 this weekend. But like if they have one more like last gasp, last stand in them, it probably starts this week as well. It's just interesting enough between Cincinnati and San Francisco and the way that the schedule lays out that you could kind of make an argument. You could kind of see it. Like the Reds need to win 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays this week. And then if they beat the Mets in that series, they're right back in it. All while you have the Giants out west sort of lurking in the woods a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think the Mets are going to blow it to that extent, but if you remove the 3 games against the Phillies last week, and this is the true shame of it, is I think I said last Monday, the Phillies have an opportunity to take a shovel to the back of the Mets' heads. The Mets would be in a world of hurt right now if the Phillies had taken 2 out of 3 in that series because they stink and they have stunk for 2 months, and their schedule does them no favors coming up.
No, absolutely not. And that's what I'm saying. Like the Giants, I think, are a team we have to start paying attention to just because their games are going to matter to the Phillies.
Yeah.
And I think that so we just have to so for all the Phillies fans who are watching the show, just pay attention to the Giants over the next few weeks. Pay attention to them and root for them in every game that they play because the Giants are your best friend in September. So just thought it was worth mentioning the San Francisco Giants. All right, that'll do it for us here on Fighting Words, here on a very special Labor Day edition of Fighting Words. Bob and I are still working on Labor Day.
That's right.
No day off for Labor Day for us. But anyway, thanks for tuning in to Fighting Words. Don't forget, you can always find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. Best place, though, is right here on YouTube. You should subscribe. Click the thumbs up, ring the bell, make sure you never miss a show. For those listening in the podcast feed, you can find us on www.youtube.com/@fightingwords. For Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying thanks for tuning in. Have a great Labor Day, everyone. And we will talk to you on Friday after the Brewers series and the Phillies head down to Miami to face the Marlins. Have a good one.